The following is a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about them Cowboys?
Yeah, go Cowboys!
This is the DallasCowboys.com Draft Show. Your war room for insider news and draft analysis from deep within the confines of Cowboys headquarters at the Star in Frisco.
The Dallas Cowboys select Michael Parsons! Woo!
And now, your hosts, Brian Broaddus, Jeff Kavanaugh, Kyle Yeomans, and David Hellman.
It is Thursday, April the 7th. It is time for another episode of the Draft Show presented by our friends at Miller Lite. I'm Dave Hellman. I'm joined by Kyle Yeomans and Brian Broaddus. Jeff Kavanaugh is out in East Texas somewhere, I think.
Yeah. Lake Caddo, right?
Something like that.
Hanging out.
It's a beautiful, beautiful lake, though.
Took
See him out
R&R.
there, say hello, ask him to do a mock draft for you.
I tried to get the invite. He didn't offer. That's okay. We will guide y'all through the next hour of draft talk. And guys, I'll be honest. I'm bored of the talking points. I'm bored of the guard receiver Zion, Kenyon Green, Chris Olave, Traylon Burks conversation.
You hear what he's saying there, Broaddus? He doesn't love the draft.
No,
I think
doesn't love football.
No, I'm going to take it another direction, Kyle, which we will point out 30 visits are ongoing. Ironically, I think, Kenyon Green and Zion Johnson were like here yesterday. Big-time prospects continue to roll through the Star. But what I want to do, it's not that I don't like the draft. I want to go another layer deep because I feel like there's only so much we can say.
You love it too much.
I want to get into the nitty-gritty.
Good.
I want to start here at guard because just more than anything, at that position specifically, because like we've covered the gamut with receiver and a bunch of these other positions. I wonder if we've given the guard position its due credit considering how big of a need it is for this Cowboys team. So I wanted to talk to y'all about some of the other guys, the guys that aren't at the top of the depth chart, whether that's Darian Kennard, who we've talked about a little bit, or Jamari Salyer out of Georgia, who I don't think we've talked about at all on this show. If the Cowboys don't draft a guard with the 24th overall pick, I would just love to get a better idea of how y'all feel about the position.
I think, when all these positions, when you dive into them, because I don't have that many first-round grades. I have 20 guys on my first-round grade board. So now, okay, where are the bulk of those other names appearing? And, the guard spot to me is one of those positions that has a little depth from the rounds 2, 3, 4. I think the fact that you have guys that were converted tackles that are projected to guards, I think that adds to a little bit to the intrigue. Are you, with the Cowboys, they're in a situation where they always believe in position flexibility. Can the guy do this? Can the guy do that? I would just rather, find a guy, plug him in, and let him play. But yeah, this is a group that I kind of feel like, though, that if you didn't get one in the first round, that you could find somebody. Offensive linemen are weird that way. That the first round ones are great to have, and Dallas has done a great job with plug and play first round guys. But the second, third round, fourth round guys, there might be one or two there that end up being better off than some of these first round guys we're talking about.
And it's tough to project because you mentioned kind of the position flex, and I know that's a hated term around draft time, but it's guys that are projected to be in a different position than they played in college. And you mentioned the second level of guys outside of Green and Johnson, who of course played the guard position and did so effectively in college. The next four guys on my list are Ed Ingram, Tyler Smith, Jeremy Salyer, and Darian Kennard. Those four, out of three of those four guys, played tackle in college, and that's Kennard, Smith, and Salyer. So all three of those guys are making that projected jump into guard. They've maybe played it a little bit, but it's tough to really tell just how good they're going to be and if they're ready to make that jump into the NFL and make the switch to guard at the same time.
Kyle's absolutely right about that. I also include a guy, Justin Shafer, from Georgia is another guy that I really like. I know
It's almost like they won the national title or something.
Yeah, but
there's 2 dozen of these.
He's a
guys.
Senior Bowl guy.
Yeah, he started left guard for Georgia, and I'm just going to say the names he has are absolutely right. Ryan from UCLA is another guy that's in there.
We get a lot of questions about him. Can you just take me through Sean Ryan really quickly?
Yeah, I think with Sean Ryan, he started left tackle for UCLA, and people project him to play guard. I mean, he's a big guy. He's 6'5", he's 321. But, they'll line him up at both tackle spots because they play unbalanced lines sometimes. I mean, unbalanced is like if he's the left tackle, he'll line up on the right side. They'll just go heavy to one side of it. But this is a massive guy that moves fairly well. I mean, his base, I thought, got a little narrow at times at run blocking. And he just uses mass to try and get movement more than he will technique. And I think there's some bulliness to his game, as a run blocker. And I think that's where you kind of see okay, I get what he is. He's a big guy. He's going to bully you. But he can make blocks in space. There's a lot of times where you watch him get as a tackle. They run the screens. They do stuff where he's a draw, and it's like he has to wheel on a guy and then push and then widen the guy. I mean, there was times where I thought that he was a little bit high coming off the ball, but other than that, man, again, that's a big man that moves fairly well.
I think he always looks under control is what I had as my first note was he looks under control. And for a guy that's 6'4", 320 pounds, I mean, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
I actually comped him to a bigger Connor Williams, a guy who played tackle in college, was really good in the run, was a guy who they put on the run a lot because in that spread offense at UCLA, it wasn't like he was doing traditional pass sets. It was mostly on the run, trying to get to the second level, utilizing athleticism, which he certainly has, and he was super aggressive at doing so. I mean, he was just overly aggressive sometimes, got a little headstrong, like you said, out of position, but that was mostly because he was just headhunting on the way to whoever he was trying to lock up on a block. But I think for a guy who's a later pick, it goes back to what Brian was saying. There is value outside of the first round at the offensive line spot, which bodes well for the Cowboys if they wanted to go a different direction.
6'4", 321.
Yeah.
That's a big fella right there.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, right behind him, another guy I don't think we haven't given his due credit is Sawyer, the other Georgia guy. Yeah. What can you tell me about him?
About Sawyer, he was a starting left tackle. So, here you have Sawyer and Shafer playing on the left side for Georgia. And when you watch them run the football, that's the direction they were going. And, I don't think that Sawyer is when you start talking about body control and balance, but his athletic ability will surprise you. And the movement he has for 321 pounds is really, really impressive. You watch the Michigan game, and all of a sudden, he's handling both their defensive ends. And we're talking about those two cats as being first round. One of them talking about maybe going first overall. And it was very frustrating to those Michigan edge players to have to deal with Sawyer right here. I mean, this guy's got some stoutness to him. There was only one snap that I did see where Hutchinson used an arm over move on him, but other than that, boom, everything else was great. He gets movement in the running game because of his mass. He's going to overpower defenders when he comes off the ball. When he leans on you, you know he's going to get movement that way. And I kind of felt like, though, that when he gets away from the line of scrimmage, this pass set and all that, everything was really, really spot on for him. So, again, another one of those guys that doesn't get overextended, doesn't get out of balance. Sometimes the body control, like I say, a little iffy there, but not always. But watch that Michigan game, and you'll be impressed by the way he's playing.
That was by far my favorite tape that I watched. And then it was also interesting because in the national championship game, he took snaps at guard and tackle. He
Alabama game too,
back and forth, and was a part of that kind of mixture of guys up front for Georgia. One thing I noted against Sawyer, and that's one of the reasons I knocked his draft stock a little bit, it looked like outside of the Michigan game, he struggled a little bit against athletic edges. Like the stronger edges that are a little bit slower off the snap, he handled pretty much all the way through SEC play. But against Kentucky and Arkansas and Alabama a couple times, when it was the quicker guys off the edge, he struggled. Did you see any of that as well?
No, it was funny because the games that I was watching were the playoff game and then the national championship game, and because I was really interested because of like you were talking about. With those defensive ends at Michigan, both those guys are pretty quick. Both would get off the ball. And
that's the one that kind of provided me pause because I'm looking at him handling Aiden Hutchinson and David Ajabo.
Yeah.
And then you go to Kentucky and Josh Pascal,
Josh Pascal, good player,
is getting after him all the way through. So it was an interesting back and forth.
That was one of Pascal's best games too, by the way.
Was.
If you want to watch a defensive end play, and if you want to get an idea, but I kind of felt like though to me that at that size and that weight. And I saw a guy getting away from the line pretty well. And so that kind of just, I didn't see what you were talking about. But, there's things you miss as you're watching these guys.
So you guys are both way north of 100 players scouted. You're looking at your board, and you just said you don't have any ones. So how many twos do you have?
Well, that's what I'm saying. No, if you look at my twos, and it's Green, Johnson, Ingram, and Kennard are the guys that I would say that would be my twos. And then the guys we just talked about, Sawyer, Shafer. I like Mumford from Ohio State. I'm starting now in the third, and Ryan in the third. So I've got, if you really look at it, I've got 8 guys in the first 3 rounds. 8 guys in the first 3 rounds, and then another 3 guys in the fourth. So I've got plenty of guards when it comes down to this.
Right there with you. 4 guys in the second: Green, Johnson, Kennard, Ingram. Johnson and Green are 1-2 cheater grades for me. That kind of 1-2 punch that we've talked about previously. I have 8 guys in the first 3 rounds, but they're just different guys throughout. Sawyer's in there, Ingram's in there. And then I've got Tyler Smith, but I know he could probably be a tackle, guard, back and forth, flex. Dylan Parham from Memphis is in that conversation as an interior guy. And then I've got Cade Mays and Andrew Stuber is what it is, from Michigan.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember how to say his name. But Stuber in that borderline third round guys. That are on the outside looking in at the moment.
There's a Lexus, I think I said it right. Lexus Smith from Virginia Tech is another guy you kind of. Lacetus, okay.
Senior Bowl guy.
Yep.
Okay.
Remember him.
Lacetus, okay. One day I'm going to get these guys' names right. I'll probably never, but give him.
I'm having trouble with this draft too.
There's some strange ones too.
And there's Cole Strange.
Yep.
Yeah. See what I'm doing there?
Which Chattanooga, right?
Yeah. Senior Bowl guy.
No disrespect to him whatsoever. We've gotten a lot of questions about him as well, but I get stuck in that mode where I'm like, if you played at an FCS school, I gotta see you get drafted here to believe it'll happen.
I wasn't. I had him in the 4th round, and I kind of said like about him was kind of an old throwback or old school player. He doesn't wear any gloves or hand protection on his hands.
Oh, those are the nastiest guys.
Yeah, and I said that's something you don't see very often, but he didn't appear to give up on blocks, and he stayed on his feet. And good foot athlete on tape. I didn't see him on the ground all that much. But, I thought finishing was pretty good. I thought he could climb his guy pretty good. Movement skills are good, but he's just not very clean on some of the athletic pulls and stuff like that. It's kind of a little bit about watching Juergens, the center from Nebraska. Everybody says, oh, this guy tested really, really well. And I'm like, yeah, but he watched tape against Oklahoma. He's getting rocked a little bit. He looks out of balance. He looks, he's playing on one leg. I'm kind of like, okay, if you want to tell me he's a great athlete, fine. Well, there's a lot of Nebraska players, if you want to go through the history, that have always tested very well and haven't played very well. So that's kind of where. But if you watch the tape of him, the Oklahoma game is pretty eye-opening if that's something you want to do.
So you just said 8 guys, and I feel better about this than I did at the top of the show. But I think it's still fair to say I feel better about your options on day 2 at receiver than I would at guard.
Sure.
Yeah.
And the thing about it is, though, and you've got to remember this, that they had a second-round grade on Connor McGovern.
Yeah.
a grade of 121.
That scares though I almost said a bad word. That scares the crap out of you, doesn't it?
Yeah. Well,
Just knowing that.
plays to how scared you actually are of this.
Well, I mean, we've talked a lot about it, and rightfully so. I mean, they had a very high grade on him, and I think he's
giving up on him.
Yeah,
entering a contract year.
Yeah.
You would have to say it hasn't worked out all that
there
well.
seems to be some thought that they might let him compete against the center and see if in fact that he could be a center. That's instead of playing some guard. But on my radio show yesterday, we had the discussion about would you move if you knew that Connor McGovern was a good right guard? Would you move Zach Martin?
Yeah, we talked about that here last week.
Okay,
move Zach to left guard.
Yeah. So I mean, the same thing. I mean, it's kind of crazy to think, but if you we always think about get your best 5 on the field.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did. I'm just so torn by that idea because, hey Zach, you're the best in the league at your job. You're the problem. You have to
flip it. Yeah.
The Office Space quote. Why should I change? He's the one that sucks.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you got to get your best 5 on the field.
I wasn't here for this conversation. Did you say you would do that, Brian? Or
you know what? I think I would.
Or at least entertain it.
Yeah, I think you'd have to ask, but I'm not. I wouldn't be like, why move a Hall of Fame guard? I mean, but if it meant that maybe that you could fix your position, I think you'd have to consider it. I want to, if I could ask you guys a question here.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
And we talked, man, I remember say the 30 visit things. I'm still trying to get my arms around the Charles Cross thing.
Okay.
Why he's on their list?
Yeah, and I asked guys around the league, and nobody was saying anything negative about Charles Cross. Like, am I missing Charles Cross, beats up puppies or something like that? Or, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, is there something keeping Charles Cross from, because every mock draft, every one of them I've seen, he doesn't go lower than the top 10. And then yesterday we did an exercise again on my radio show where myself and Gavin Dawson were trying to trade up to spots. Mm-hmm. And we were trying to figure out, would it be worth your first and your second to go get a guy like Charles Cross? And then we got to around the 13th or 14th pick, and then we stopped having interest in because we felt like that there were only maybe a couple of guys there. But Charles Cross seem like the only guy that you would trade up for. Am I right about that? Of say the 30 visit guys?
Of the guys on the list, how big of a trade? I don't know.
That's what I'm saying. If you had to go to the Commanders, it's going to cost you your first and your second.
Yeah.
If you're going, it gets a little better if you get down to if you think he's going to be there at 13, 14, that's about where you probably are going to have to stop. Because everybody, there's a team at 13 that's can use an offensive tackle at Houston.
Yeah.
Do you have to jump ahead of Houston to make sure you have a chance at Charles Cross?
Because there's 3 names on the list that I'm looking at that you may have to go up to get, and that I completely don't think there's even a chance they slide to 24.
Cross, Lloyd.
I wouldn't even say Lloyd. I wouldn't put him in that. Okay. Maybe borderline, but
Olave and London, maybe.
I was thinking London and Jordan Davis.
Yeah,
okay.
Jordan Davis.
So those are the 3 that,
good.
if I circled it and said I'm saying these guys are top 15 picks, it would be Davis, it would be Drake London, and then it would be Charles Cross. Cross may be the top name out of those 3.
Yeah.
So
he also plays the most valuable position, probably.
So there's even more so of a chance that he doesn't fall outside of the top 8.
If you told me that I drafted Charles Cross, I'd ask Zach Martin to move to left guard. That's what I'm trying to get at.
Okay.
Because
you're putting Cross at right tackle.
Yeah, you know what? And I'm sorry, Terrence Steele. You become my swing tackle in week 5 when Tyron Smith gets rolled up on. And misses 3 games with a high ankle sprain.
Actually, in that case,
6 games.
case, Charles Cross becomes my left tackle.
Yeah, exactly.
And then Terrence Steele is right.
Yeah, exactly. If I were to draft a Charles Cross, I would ask Zach Martin to make the move. Okay. Because what I'm learning is about talking to my pro scout guys around the league. The guys that are available on the street, every one of these guys has issues.
Oh, yeah.
Every one of these guys is talking about the Trey Turners.
No, if you look at
JC Treaders,
if you look at the list of guys that are still available, it's hardly inspiring. It makes.
There was one guy that my pro scouting buddies gave me as a name to keep an eye on, and if I could pull it up real quick. It was a kid named Trenton Scott from Carolina. He's evidently on the street. And he said, my guy says he's a swing tackle that played some guard, watched the first Carolina game versus Atlanta. He just mauled the Falcons from what I was told. Big, physical, pretty versatile. But everybody else that I asked about, the Trey Turners and the other guys, everybody of them was like, they're all broken down. They're starting to decline. You know, that's the biggest fear of Stephen Jones, is to buy one of these guys. Then all of a sudden it turns into a Gerald McCoy or somebody like that.
Which, when you look at it again, I don't. Somebody else went off the board yesterday. I don't remember who it was, but a veteran offensive lineman. Oh, it was Jermaine Ifedi.
Yeah,
Jermaine Ifedi signed yesterday. And you look at the list, and you're like, okay, I think it would have been smart for the Cowboys to do something earlier, but at this point, you're probably better off waiting and seeing what you get in the draft.
See, that's where I was kind of feeling like, and there's a bunch of rumors going around about the wide receiver from Houston, right? That the Cowboys. And I'm going
Brandon Cooks.
Brandon Cooks. You know, can you flip something to go get Brandon Cooks, and does that keep you from drafting somebody at 24? You know, that's the thought right there, because if they make a Brandon Cooks trade, then my gut feeling is that they're going to go another direction with this thing. That you'll probably be one of these offensive linemen.
Without getting too far specifically into the weeds on a guy like Cooks, but if you were going to make a trade like that, what would the price be?
You're probably going to. I mean, you'd
be like a third or a fourth.
I think you have to. I think I would. You get all those fives. You know,
try and go get one of those up.
I mean,
well,
you
look at what Devontae Parker cost the Patriots, and then you hear that the Cowboys called about it, and it didn't get done. So you assume
you start there and go lower.
Start lower than a third, probably.
Yeah.
I'm looking at Cooks' contract. So Cooks is under contract for what? One more season.
Yeah.
One more season.
So
he's got void years on his deal, so I mean, you can keep him around.
So it'd probably be like a fifth or a fourth.
See, that's what I'm saying. If you offer a 4 and then you say, or you maybe even try one of those 5s,
4 and a 5, maybe
or just a 5. I mean, I think maybe if you offer a couple of 5s. You know, you got 4 of them.
That's true.
But you know, I was
for his age and the amount of time he has left on his contract, I sure wouldn't offer a whole lot more.
Yeah,
than that.
no, that's what I'm saying. And you know, we had Todd Archer on yesterday, and he was talking about that. And he goes, last year I would have never believed the Cowboys make 11 picks. But when you look at Stephen Jones and you look what he talks about with the cap, you know, they need all these guys to play. They need Quentin Bohannon to play. They need Golston to play. They need all these guys to play. You know, that's what they would rather use every one of those picks to try and you know, keep their salary cap stuff in line.
Real quick before we go to break, do you think something like that is coming down the pipe before draft day?
What, the trade for a receiver?
Anything that would kind of shake up the situation.
I was hopeful that they would identify a young guard that's probably stuck in the back end of somebody's roster, that they could do. They could take one of those fifths and move it. Probably be a player that we'd have to Google.
Yeah.
And then the pro guys would all be like, no, man, that was a great pick.
Right.
That was a great job by the Cowboys. I was hopeful they would do that so it'd kind of protect them a little bit for what's going forward.
I think it's hard to believe that they would go into April 28th and not have anything else happen. Like, I know that it sounds possible.
Well, they
because
did it
of
with
the way
Washington. They did it with Washington. They did it with Leighton Vander Esch. I think they've made some signings that they're not totally married to.
Yeah.
You know, if one of these defensive ends comes along and Fowler is not what he's not what he's supposed to be, boom, you just move on. Vander Esch, move on. Washington, move on. You know.
Yeah,
Cooks to me would be a guy that if you traded, he's going to make your team. And then now maybe that takes you into not having to worry about a wide receiver 1, 2, maybe even 3.
Yeah.
It would. I think they need to do something. Like I said, the guard market hardly looks inspiring, but it feels like there's work left to do. So I guess we'll see.
Yep.
We're going to take a break. We ran a little bit long, but we're going to try to rapid fire as many of your questions as possible when we get back.
This is Chad Hennings, former Cowboy and proud veteran of the United States Air Force. When my fellow military veterans choose VA, they receive life-changing benefits from the Department of Veterans Affairs. If you are a veteran, you may be eligible for healthcare, education, and training benefits, a home loan guarantee, housing assistance, and more. Choose VA for the benefits you've earned. Visit choose.va.gov to learn more. That's choose.va.gov.
What do you call a group of grown men and women with their faces painted silver and blue who get together every week to share a 3-hour-long ritual of jumping, singing, and toasting Miller Lite in 10-gallon hats while yelling, "How about them Cowboys?" You call it Miller Time in Dallas. Here's to the Cowboys. Here's to the original light beer. It's Miller Time. Celebrate responsibly.
This is the DallasCowboys.com Draft Show.
Welcome back to the Draft Show presented by our friends at Miller Lite. We're also presented by Liberty Tax. It's not funny anymore. It's a week away. If you haven't done your taxes, please do your taxes. Don't get the IRS on your tail. Go to libertytax.com/Cowboys. Take care of that. I know I did. Guys, it's the second segment. Jazzy J, can you hit the drop for me, please?
Twitter on the 20.
Try to get to more of these than we did last time. I think we only did
try and be
3.
less answers.
Which, shout out to Justin. I loved your question about trading up, but I feel like we kind of answered it there in the first segment.
You want to go ahead and answer it just for cut and dry reasons? Go ahead and knock it out.
Well, I mean, it would be Charles Cross, right?
I think it would be for Charles Cross, yeah.
It would either be Cross or Jordan Davis for me. Those are the two.
Yeah.
You would give up 24 and 56 to get Jordan Davis. That was the
That's
question.
the question?
That was the question.
Oh, that's a little different. Yeah, probably just Cross.
Which I did the math.
Jordan Davis is great, but I don't know if I want to give up 56.
Those two picks would get you up to like the 14th or 15th pick.
Yeah.
Then no.
Unless something, I mean, if for some, if Kayvon Thibodeau hates football enough that he was still hanging out at 14, you could maybe convince me that was worthwhile. But I think Charles Cross is the right answer.
Thibodeau and DeMarcus Lawrence on opposite sides of the defensive line together.
I can think of worse things.
The guy Stingley had a nice workout yesterday.
Yes, he did, didn't he?
I was going to talk about him in the first segment. I was like, do we need to? Like, he ran his way out of the conversation with the Cowboys.
You knew he was going to run his way. The question was the health, and the questions were, does he really love football? And when we talk to our friends down there in Baton Rouge, they tell us, listen, he just needs a big brother. Minnesota seems to be now that Patrick Peterson's re-signed in Minnesota, if the Vikings were to draft Derek Stingley, I think that would be a great pick for them.
Trayvon Diggs could be a big brother.
Yep. No, that's what I'm saying. Absolutely.
I'm kidding. But no, and those questions still remain.
Yeah.
But when he can go, and what he said yesterday, he's only worked out for 3 weeks since he got healthy, and he ran a 4.37 and had a 39-inch vertical. Mm-hmm. All of those questions are still there, and he's still going to be a top 15 pick. I can't imagine he would slip a whole hell of a lot further than that.
Have you watched Sauce Gardner play at all?
Yeah.
Is there a chance that he's the best player in the draft?
We've talked about that before. Yeah, I mean, yes.
Oh, we have?
Yeah, I mean,
I'm sorry, I'm old.
I don't know
Not
if
that
he's
specifically, but
I don't know if he's the best player in the draft, but he's comfortably he should be a top 5 pick. I think I said that last week. Like if the Giants don't take him with one of their picks, I just think that would be dumb, especially if they're really interested in moving on from James Bradbury.
Yeah.
Do you have him as the top player in the draft?
I don't, but I was just curious that but to me he's one of those guys because we've talked about Walker. I mean, Walker, there's nobody in this draft process that's made more of a rise. Remember when we first started, it was Walker was the pick at 24 for Dallas. Then Walker became the pick for the Ravens at 14. And then Walker became the pick for the Lions at 2. There's nobody that has risen up draft boards faster than this guy.
Which, to go back to the Cross thing real quick, I doubt it because
we need to get your question.
I know we do, but I doubt it because of the position that he plays. But the thing with Walker, too.
Yeah.
We keep talking about how much variance there is in this draft, and just maybe there's just no consensus on these guys.
There's no consensus.
And so maybe it wouldn't be shocking if somebody like Charles Cross falls to 17.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, there's going to be a lot of guys and gals in rooms where you can't drive a nail up their rear. It's going to be that. Seriously, it's going to be that kind of draft, at least for the first round.
Probably for 32 teams.
Yeah.
Or I guess 30 teams because
you've got to identify some hurt players. You've got to identify players with maybe some questions about off the field stuff. There's players that maybe don't fit the profiles because of height, weight, speed. It's going to be this draft has a real potential when we look back of maybe being really busty.
Yeah, well, when it's not sexy at the top, I think that's possible. All right, rapid fire, brevity's the soul of wit, guys. Let's try to get to some of these. Chris is worried about the depth of the tight end position in the sense that once the top 2 or 3 go, there's not a lot left. Do you feel that way? Do you feel like you might have to draft a tight end like a round early in this class?
I don't think so. I think there are a couple tight ends there that are decent, but it kind of goes back to what Brian's talking about. They were either hurt or they're one-trick ponies, and that's the thing. They do something really well, but that's really about it, because you've got Trey McBride, who's the most complete guy probably at the top of my list. Then you've got the Greg Dulcich from UCLA, Jeremy Ruckert, who's a 30-visit guy from Ohio State, Cade Otton, who I know Brian's been very good or very high on out of Washington, and then Isaiah Likely, the Jelani Woods for Virginia are kind of those second-tier guys for me, but they do some things very, very well. And then you've just got a bunch of receivers, too, along the way that you can maybe go at. So it depends on what you want for tight end. If you're looking for a blocking guy or all-around guy, I can see the concern. But I think there's a guy that can do what you need them to do, and you can get him in the later rounds as well.
I think this is a really rare tight end draft in the way of guys that are like 6'7". You know, when you start to talk about guys like with Cole Turner was a guy at Nevada I'd watched. I really, really liked him a lot. Kohler from Iowa State. There are guys on this draft that are very much that hard to cover because they're so long. When all of a sudden you got safeties and linebackers, corners trying to cover these tight ends. When you watch them and they're 6'7" and they extend, you're slapping their wrists. Your forearms. You're not getting to the ball. And that's what makes a lot of these guys interesting. I think it's actually a pretty good list. I'm not saying there's any glass eaters as blockers here, but I will say that there's guys that they do catch the ball very well.
So if the Cowboys don't spend a top 100 pick on a tight end, Saturday comes around, you feel pretty good that somebody like you there.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, there's still people. I mean, I know we all love Bucky Brooks and stuff like that. He still has Weidemeyer in his top 5. I'm not taking Weidemeyer out of my mix either. I've
Cowboys seem to like him.
Yeah, I've watched too many games of him playing against LSU and Alabamas and the Ole Misses and the Auburns. You figure it out. Do you not like football? Do you not like working out? Are you going to be this way? Because he's too talented of a guy. He really, really is.
Yeah, that's the ultimate trusting the tape. Have you watched Shigozum Okonkwo from Maryland?
I have not.
We've gotten a few questions about him over the last few weeks.
He's a little bit smaller than some of these other guys Brian's talking about. He's 6'2.5", 240 pounds, ran a 4.5 40. He had a 32.5-inch actually 35.5-inch vertical. I think he could be one of those kind of hybrid H-back sort of guys that fits a role in a modern NFL offense, that you can put him in the slot if you really wanted to. He's a decent blocker, not super versatile in his pass catching ability, but he gets separation and he gets open as a tight end. I like him in the later day 3 conversation as a depth piece in this draft.
I tell you, it's a good scouting report on the guy. I personally don't think they're going to extend Schultz.
I don't either.
I think this was the 1 year to kind of
hold it
over and give.
They need a year to get this guy up to speed.
Yeah, well, they need a year to kind of help Dak too, because you blow out Amari Cooper, and now you got banged up receivers and stuff like that.
This person's name is UC Analytics, so you'll be shocked to hear that he wants to know about Drake Jackson, the Southern Cal edge.
Yeah, Drake Jackson.
Just how you view him as a player.
Yeah, Jake, he's making a lot of visits when you start to. I think that they were tweeting out that he had 12 visits set up. And interesting guy, 6'3", 254 pound. He plays really as a stand-up outside linebacker defensive end. And I thought he was kind of a slippery guy. When I mean slippery, that ability to, like, when you can rush inside, outside. But, I mean, his ability to redirect, I think, is outstanding. There are plays where he appears to be out of position, and then, boom, he's right back in that. So, he's one of those guys I thought, too, that could kind of capture the edge with the first couple of steps with the quickness, lower the shoulder, work past the tackle. He fights pressure on blocks. He's got some relentless traits to his game. But I also feel like there's times where, though, he'll struggle to disengage, and where guys can kind of get on him, and he's fighting that. Again, I say he fights pressure, but he just, when you really need him to get off the thing.
You think that's a size thing?
I don't.
I was going to ask the same thing. Is it strength?
Yeah, I think it's more about his strength.
Yeah.
But, I mean, if he's got the length to be really better at this, but there's times, like I say, that he just does it. But his movement skills are really, really impressive.
He's crazy athletic. I mean, ultra athletic. He didn't run anything at the combine, which is a little unfortunate. His jumps were good. However, I'm with Brian. The strength just doesn't look even existent. I mean, he looks like he just does not have that extra oomph whenever he gets to the point of attack. And that scares me a little bit for a guy who's going to be projected as that 3-4 outside linebacker off the edge sort of guy.
12 teams.
A lot of guys are looking at him.
Yeah.
Where do y'all have him? Third?
I have him in the third round.
Late third, yeah.
Buddy, a friend of the show, our buddy Yuma Cactus.
Nice.
You start to feel comfortable with drafting Justin Ross, the Clemson receiver with the neck injury.
Yeah, I'm. I haven't got any report from anybody.
Heard that name since like February, early February.
There's so many receivers in this class; it's easy to forget about them.
I'll tell you what. I watched the Pitt cornerback last night against Clemson.
We're gonna get to him.
And then Ross was he was part of that. But yeah, I think to me with Ross, I mean I was super impressed with him, and I think the reason I was impressed with him is that he could play in the slot, he could play outside. The coaches try and get him the ball quickly and let him go because I think he can make things happen. And he's going to find ways to make plays. And I think there was, for a guy that's kind of thinly built at 6'4", 205, he's got that ability, but you don't see him get knocked off his feet very much carrying the football. So, I mean, I saw him get his feet down in some tight spots. He could go high to, there was if you watch the Syracuse game, there was one, and it was amazing how high he got off the ground to make this play. So I thought he caught the ball really easily and the concentration, all that. And again, the 2020 season with the neck injury, that's the thing you're going to have to look at. You're going to have to say, well, are we comfortable taking a guy that potentially something could happen again, or are we going to ride this thing out and see what happens?
Does it hurt his stock in the fact that he ran a 4.64 at his pro day and had a 31.5-inch vertical, which would have been the next to lowest in the combine numbers?
I just, it's funny.
He's banged up. I get it, but
yeah, the thing about him is, man, I kind of feel like, though, I'm not asking him to be a first or second round player.
No.
But, I mean, when you start to talk about those third, fourth round guys, there's just too much. Like I said, you can see it on film. I said he doesn't show great time speed, but there's some initial quickness off the snap. So, that's kind of where I think this guy is as a player. That you can, he's going to get with somebody that's probably a pretty good team. They're going to figure out, you could throw the ball. He's reliable. He can catch it on third down.
Great hands.
Yeah, there's places for guys like that. I mean, I'm not saying the guy like a Keenan Allen, but Keenan Allen didn't run great coming out of Cal. But he catches every damn ball. That
like
kind
a
of
12-foot wingspan.
Yeah, exactly.
Fourth round? Like, this is one of those situations where you're just like, at what point, like, if he's still on the board, you're just like, we're taking this guy. Why is he still here?
The speed and the medical is probably going to put him in the fourth round.
Yeah.
But somebody, when we're going to be working on the draft, and someone's going to take him, and we're going to say all the positive things that we just said.
As a player, he's a top 100 guy.
Yeah.
With the measurables and the medicals, I can't take him in the top 100 comfortably. But yeah, if he's sitting there in the fourth round and you're coming to 129 or whatever the pick is, I wouldn't be against that, especially if you hadn't drafted a receiver to that point in the early rounds.
I don't want a list of names. We know who they all are. Nicholas wants to know specifically, if Tyler Linderbaum were to happen to be their first-round pick, who are you specifically targeting on day 2 at guard and receiver? The guys you would want, not options.
Well, you're probably going to lose. We talked about every one of those guards.
Yeah.
I mean, we went through. You're not going to have in day 2. You're probably not going to have Green or Johnson to deal with.
Unless you trade it up.
Up.
So, knowing that, who, like, if you're in the draft.
We said every guy there, me.
I know. But who would you be, like, if you're in the room on Thursday night, you're like, okay, this is who I'm kind of like they did with Kelvin Joseph last year, honestly.
I would probably take Ingram or Kennard.
Okay.
That's kind of what I was thinking was Kennard.
Yeah. I would take Ingram or Kennard.
Those are the names you would circle.
Yeah.
I would try and go trade up. Let's say
Salyer, is another guy. Shafer's another guy I mentioned. Those are all those are third-round guys. But if I'm talking about like Ingram, Kennard, those are second-round guys on my board.
If you took Linderbaum first, it solves your center position. Your guard spot's still a glaring need at that point. I would want, if you wanted to stay put, I would say Kennard probably in that spot. He's perfect there. If you wanted to look at a Zion Johnson, let's say he falls to 35, 40 in that range, maybe package a fourth-round pick, go try and get up there. I don't know if it would take that or it'd take a little bit more. I would maybe go try and grab it. And then your offensive line's set. Then you can go figure it out the rest of the way and go play. You're blocking for Dak Prescott. You're blocking for Ezekiel Elliott. Take it and run with it. Get Lindbaum and go get Zion Johnson. But it would take one of those guys to fall. If not, I wait for 56 and pick up a Kennard.
Part of me wonders if they were to draft Linderbaum, if they just say he'll help whoever plays left guard and we can deal with that later.
Sure.
Maybe.
It said, here, Connor McGovern, here's your shot.
Or go sign a guy in June who's sitting on the street.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see really what happens in that second round if it's a defensive player.
Yeah.
I'd keep that Sam Williams in mind.
I think he's.
I just and it's a hunch. Yeah. It's just a hunch.
Well, but we always say that it's always a hunch, but
yeah.
It's at least an educated hunch.
You know? I could see Dan Quinn saying, "Yeah, I understand the guard or offensive player, whatever you have to do in the first." I could also see that. I could also see Mike McCarthy. We had this discussion yesterday on radio. If Mike McCarthy takes over the play calling, say during the year, something happens and he ends up, maybe this team is going to have to win games because of defense. And I could also see Mike McCarthy saying, "Dan, who do you got in mind? Who do you got in mind over there that can help us?" It might be about, if you look at efficiency numbers, if you're nerdy like that, 9th best offense, 1st best defense, it might turn into Mike McCarthy saying, "Listen, I've got to find a way to win on defense, but also I've got to kind of rein in and figure out what I have to do with my quarterback." That might be something that, we talk about help Dak, but it might turn into Mike saying, "Listen, if I could get good defense, I can do what I have to do running the football and things like that."
Very quickly before we go to break, Ugly Base Guy just wants to know what your grade is on Daniel Falele, the massive Minnesota tackle.
I've got him in 3rd round myself. He's my first guy in the for the matter of fact. I've got him as I look at this right now, Penning and Raymond in the 2nd. And then he would be the top guy in the 3rd round with Lucas from Washington State, Petit Ferry from Ohio State, and then Tyler Smith would be my guys in that 3rd round.
I would put him in the 2nd round, late 2nd, though, not anywhere close to 56. But I like his demeanor. I like his frame. I think he relies on his size a little bit too much because he kind of gets clunky with it. We talked about that a little bit on Tuesday. But he's got good balance along the way, too. So if he's set and he's not moving a ton, I think he's a good player. But that's about 2nd round, late 2nd round worthy for me.
Even more quickly, I meant to bring up Abraham Lucas from Washington State in that conversation in the first segment.
Yeah, he's a right tackle for Washington State, and I think this is one of those guys you need to kind of know, 6'6", 315. He tends to catch blocks and kind of control his guy with his upper body strength, but his footwork is really, really, really good. He can, he can be driven back a little bit, but not to the point where you're like going, "Gosh, he's getting knocked back every damn time." But there's a really good physical side to his run blocking, the way he gets movement one-on-one. I would say he's a really effective drive blocker. And there's some finish to his game. I didn't feel like there was, he wasn't the best puller and stuff like that. And you're talking about the clunkiness a little bit maybe with some other guys. But, man, I'll tell you what, you watch him against USC and Jackson didn't sniff. Didn't even sniff. So if you like Jackson, don't watch him against Abraham Lucas because he's gonna make you not want to like him.
I watched that USC game and then I watched him against Thibodeau and against Oregon too because Pac-12 has some edge rushers and he stood up very well.
Absolutely,
and he's experienced, crazy experience because they throw the ball a lot.
Yeah.
So he had over 2,100 pass snaps during his time at Washington. That's a lot of
Bring me
lot of
that.
experience in the later rounds that you could maybe get a great value for.
I'm feeling a lot better about the offensive line depth than I did.
That's what Brian does.
I did, but you too.
Makes you feel better.
You too.
I mean, he makes me feel better, so I'm just trying to pass it on.
As always, thank you so much for your questions. We've got Tell Me More when we come back from this break.
Football season is almost over, and that means tax season is here. With it comes taxiety. Filing taxes can be stressful if you choose the wrong partner. Don't let taxiety take over this tax season. Liberty Tax will help you get your largest possible refund or your money back. With more than 12,000 tax professionals nationwide, help is always around the corner. Check out Liberty Tax, proud partner of the Dallas Cowboys. Schedule an appointment today at libertytax.com/cowboys. Liberty Tax, a brighter way to do taxes.
At Smoothie King, we are blending goodness to fuel your greatness. Every blend is crafted to help you achieve your health and fitness goals. Smoothie King uses only whole fruits and organic veggies. You'll never find sugary syrups or artificial flavors, colors, or preservatives. And unlike some other smoothie places, there are 0 grams of added sugar in many of our blends. Smoothie King is proud to be the official smoothie of the Dallas Cowboys. Place your order in the app or online for pickup or delivery. Smoothie King, rule the day.
What do you call a group of grown men and women with their faces painted silver and blue who get together every week to share a 3-hour-long ritual of jumping, sinking, and toasting Miller Lite in 10-gallon hats while yelling, "How about them Cowboys?" You call it Miller Time in Dallas. Here's to the Cowboys. Here's to the original light beer. It's Miller Time. Celebrate responsibly. 2021 Miller Brewing Company, Fort Worth, Texas.
If you have been thinking about weight loss surgery, My Bariatric Solutions has made it easier for you to schedule your initial consultation from the safety, comfort, and convenience of your own home. You'll meet one-on-one with the bariatric surgeon over a private and secure video call. You'll learn everything you need to know about the options available and which procedure is best for you. If you've been considering weight loss surgery and are ready to take the first step, call My Bariatric Solutions today at 844-326-6266. That's 844-326-6266, or go to mybariatricsolutions.com.
This is the DallasCowboys.com Draft Show.
Welcome back to the Draft Show presented by Miller Lite, the only beer of the Dallas Cowboys, the only beer of Jeff Kavanaugh. Woo! Registration is now open for Dallas Cowboys Youth Football, Dance Academy, and Lil Miss camps. Save $25 with early bird pricing when you register by May 9th. Camps are available at AT&T Stadium and here at the Ford Center at the Star in Frisco. Visit DallasCowboys.com/academy to secure your spot today.
DJ's top 50, Daniel Jeremiah.
Sure.
He's got Charles Cross at 23.
See, that's my point. Which, that's not to say you're wrong or not. Like Daniel Jeremiah could be wrong. I'm not like
he also has Tyler Linderbaum at 32.
I mean, dude, these rankings are all over the place, and I think we need to be prepared to be surprised by the order that some of these names go.
Maybe they know something about Charles Cross. Like again,
maybe
is it a medical thing?
I don't think it's a medical thing.
He kicks puppies, like you said.
Yeah, maybe something's going on there. But I'll tell you what, if Dallas,
I don't think he does. That was a joke.
I know.
I was talking to the audience.
If Dallas has a chance to draft him, man, I'll tell you what, go for it.
I would feel great about that.
I
pick.
would too.
And again,
that's a young athletic tackle.
Figure guard out. That's that's fine.
Yeah.
This segment is designed to not talk about first round draft picks. We're trying to inform you on the later round guys. So that's what we're going to do. This is Tell Me More, backed by popular demand. And this is a name among like day 3 kind of guys that aren't big time prospects. I've seen this dude's name more than anyone, and that would be Demarco Jackson, the linebacker out of Appalachian State. Please tell me more.
So he first caught my eye at the Senior Bowl because it was at the end of the day, and I can't remember which coaching staff. It was either the Jets or the Lions. I can't remember which one. They wanted to do one-on-ones, which makes me think it was the Lions coaching staff. They wanted to do this one-on-one big showcase at the end of the practice to kind of put mano-a-mano running back versus linebacker.
The old Jason Garrett thing?
Yes.
Yeah, the Oklahoma drill.
It was.
Period, right?
Yeah, compete. And it was Damon Pierce that was
the Florida running
back who was just tearing up the field in Mobile. And the first guy that raised his hand wasn't even selected. You know how they normally pull a guy out? He ran up there initially. They didn't even say anything because I was on the front row, would have heard it. Went up there, and it was Demarco Jackson to take on Pierce, who had just a great practice. The competition side of that was as entertaining as anything I saw all week long. He came up, and he was the hammer, not the nail. Came in and just straight up flattened Pierce on the first one, took him to the sideline on the second one, pushed him out of bounds, and then the third one, he stopped him behind the line of scrimmage. In an Oklahoma drill, that's hard to do, and that was the first time I really saw him compete, and I really enjoyed watching it.
This guy's super aggressive. He's super tough. He's going to fly around. He's an outstanding finisher, and I think Kyle's got him right. I think when you watch him play, he closes on the ball really, really well. He covers a lot of ground. When you look at him, there was a couple of times. I think it was the Louisiana game I was watching, and they went for it on fourth down, and he made like both stop. It was met in the hole, running back going nowhere. He's got a real nose for the football. He doesn't get fooled when it comes to making plays. I love the way he attacks. I mean, his quickness forces ball carriers into panic mode. There's times when he's rushing and the quarterback, you could see the quarterback's thinking about getting rid of the ball, and he's on him so quick that he doesn't have time to do it. So this guy is a super, super impressive player with some athletic ability.
Is it size that hurts his grade? Or?
He's 6'1", he's 233.
So not really.
Nothing really.
He's actually right there.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know why more people don't like this kid.
Because way y'all are talking about him, I'm like, okay, so draft him at 88.
No, he very well could.
I would be okay with that.
Yeah.
Okay.
This guy, I mean, like I say, you talk about somebody that can actually run, cover, finish. This kid's, linebacker at that height and weight. I think you're getting a pretty damn good player.
I agree.
I trust Appalachian State. They put out gritty football players.
It may just be the fact that he played in the Sun Belt and the fact that he didn't go up against
possible.
Appalachian State didn't really play anybody. Usually, some of these like lower competition level guys, like a Jalen Tolbert from South Alabama, he had great tape against Tennessee and against SEC teams along the way. Demarco Jackson didn't really get a chance to do that.
This kid could have played in the ACC.
I agree.
He could have played. He could have played it. He could have played at a Duke or somebody like that. A North Carolina State, somebody like that, very well could have. Okay,
moving over to the Big 12. Although, I mean, love that though. Count me as a fan. I'm going to go find his tape. Eric Izukama, wide receiver out of Texas Tech. You've probably seen his name linked to the Cowboys. Tell me more.
Slot guy, Texas Tech, extremely productive last couple of seasons. I mean, he really kind of burst onto the scene in 2020 in the COVID-shortened year because he was really all they had in terms of a receiving threat. And, that's a Texas Tech team that really struggled for a little bit on offense. He was as crisp and clean as anybody on that entire roster. Good catch radius, goes up and gets the 50-50 balls. And for a guy in the slot, that's kind of rare because normally if you're playing in the slot, or at least the early days of the slot, you're more of a separation guy. He gets that sometimes, but most of his big wins were when he was going into traffic and going up and making the grab and showing a little physicality as well.
I'll tell you what, man. Tech has an offense where their guys just wide ass open. People bust coverages all the time. The Texas-Oklahoma State games are a couple that I watched with this kid, and I think Kyle's got him right. He's got super strong hands, and there were times in the Oklahoma State game where he was double covered down on the goal line and just went up, and like Des Bryant snatched a ball off the top of this guy's helmet, and then the guys were swiping at it, and he just, no, I'm not going to let you have this one. But he's 6'1", he's 209. He ran a ton of routes where he had space, though. I mean, like you say, there's those crossing routes and things like that. But he's like a physical ball carrier, too. You when the ball's in his hands, he's trying to run over people on the sidelines and stuff like that.
When you got, and Kyle, you're absolutely right. Slot receivers have changed so much. Yep. It's ironic we're talking about Tech, where Welker went, but that ain't a slot receiver anymore.
Nope.
No.
This guy, he's sick, to quote Brian, I'm going to do Brian speak. He's 6'0", 1'7". So He's a tall 6'1".
He's long, too.
And 210 as well. So, this ain't a little guy.
33-inch arms.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's got the wingspan. He's got that jumping ability. I mean, he had a good vertical, good broad jump at the combine. Didn't run the 40. I'm interested to see. I'm trying to find his 40-yard dash. I don't have it in front of me. I want to see what it is.
Dane Brugler.
Of course. Thanks, Dane.
Shameless plug for the Beast. It is out, by the way.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Worth your investment. Dane's got him listed at a 4.54.
Okay.
Good enough. That's what
fine
Burks,
with me.
basically what
pass.
Burks runs,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. So, what's your grade on this guy?
Got him in the 4th myself.
Yeah, I'm probably right around there. The 40 makes me want to push him a little higher, honestly. But
that's
not going to change it yet.
Again, for
It's
a guy
good
that
40.
size, that's not
I thought
a
it would
bad
be
40.
slower.
Yep.
Yeah.
Brian, you alluded to this when we were talking about Justin Ross. I would like to know more about Damari Mathis, the cornerback out of Pitt. Hail to Pitt.
Hail to Pitt.
Another Senior Bowl guy.
Yeah, you know what? I'll tell you what. I was surprised I didn't get on this guy earlier. I know there's some people that had him a little bit higher, and I got the name a little bit late. He'll flip sides as a corner, and I thought at first he was just a boundary guy, which would play into the short side of the field, but he ended up playing on both ends, so that kind of took that out of place. He'll walk down in the slot sometimes, too. He'll play square and press man, and then at the snap, he'll turn and bail. And so you were like, the receiver broke off the route a couple of times, and he was still gaining ground like he was trying to get somewhere in a zone. But when he did line up on a receiver and play man, he was able to stay with this guy. This guy runs really, really well. He doesn't appear like he struggles at all to run with receivers. He's super physical in the way he plays. He's always battling the receiver, even after the play. He's one of those chippy guys. I thought he was a good tackler. I thought he wasn't afraid to play off the block and get in on that tackle. He'll wrap up in space or he'll trip his guy up. I wouldn't say there's much of a backpedal there for him because of the way that they're asked to play their technique, but the feet look quick enough. The time speed is excellent at 4.41, and I really appreciate how he competes.
Would you put him in the slot at the next level?
I think he could play there because I like how physical he is, and when you play the slot, you have to be able to go two ways. You can't use the boundary, you can't use the sidelines. You have to be able to cover all over the field. 5'11", 196 with that speed, the quickness. I think he could play inside and jam up people and run with them. Yeah.
He did so many things on the back end of that coverage. I mean, he was playing that wide corner. He played in the slot a little bit. And then a lot of people even have him tabbed as maybe moving the safety or playing a little bit of safety on the back end because he has the athleticism to go over the top and to be a center field.
5'10", 196.
Yep.
Yeah,
I mean, he could play anywhere pretty much from a secondary standpoint, provide you a couple of options there.
I see, again, shouting out Mr. Brugler. Got him as a 3rd-round grade.
Yeah, I do too. And it's funny, I got a really good group of corners. Bryant from Cincinnati, McCullum from Sam Houston.
Yeah.
Mathis is in there, and then Woolen from San Antonio.
Reek the freak.
I feel like because of what they did last year with Nashawn Wright and Kelvin Joseph, outside of like the big guys, I haven't
5'11's not on the table.
Well, that's a wonderful point too. I haven't paid a ton of attention to cornerback because it's hard to imagine it being a big pick for this team.
Good point.
But to your point, yeah, 5'11 with what 30 and 3/4 inch arms.
Yeah,
maybe not for this.
Not for this team specifically. He'll be a starter within a couple of years though.
Another name I've heard a lot about. Nick Benito, the edge rusher out of Oklahoma. Boomer Sooner. Wow, we're doing this without Jeff. It feels wrong.
Feels wrong without that. Kyle, you got any thoughts on him right now?
Yeah, I mean, he was a good edge rusher, very inconsistent throughout his time at Oklahoma. And I really looked at him while you were watching Perion Winfrey. Whenever you're watching that Oklahoma tape, you kind of look over to the side and you're like, who's this number 11 that's making a play? But then you would watch him on the next one, he'd get completely washed out. I mean, he was a versatile player. He has the traits, 6'3", 245 pounds, and maybe a little bit over that. I think he's quick enough. He's got a little bit of bend to him, but Strength-wise, I don't know if he's necessarily there yet, and that's one of the reasons why he kind of gets negated on a couple of times off the ball. I have him as an early third-round grade, but nothing really more than that.
Yeah, I have him on the back end of the third. And there's like the guys I mentioned, Pascal from Kentucky I had better. I've got to figure out what's going on with these, our Penn State end and our South Carolina end and all that. I mean, that's kind of a muddy position for me right now. But I will say this: people tweet at me all the time their mock drafts.
Mm-hmm.
They have this guy in the second round every single time.
I think that's PFF because I'm
it's
doing
weird.
the same
it's
thing.
weird. I mean, I've got like 7 guys ahead of him.
He seems very well liked by certain parts of the draft community.
Yeah. I mean, everybody wants to put him at that pick for Dallas at 56, and I wouldn't put him there myself.
No.
And I love the way, though, he's super active. I think he can attack the pocket. I felt like he does have a little bend to his game.
Mm-hmm.
He could get off quickly with the first step and get underneath the blocker to make the play. But, I think that there's times where, like I say, the best thing he does is chase the ball.
Yep.
Everything else, you're kind of like going, okay. If you want to, he stands up as a defensive end. He stands up as a linebacker. He worked out at the combine as a linebacker, so people obviously feel like that maybe was where he's at. But I felt like if you're going to play this guy at end, there's going to be probably 5-6 guys better for me. So I've had him in the back end of the third. And again, you folks that mock draft him every time to me at the second, I don't make a comment about it, but I see it every damn time.
I see it. I disagree with it. Keep sending us your mock drafts. We love it.
No, I do love the mock draft, but it's just there's sometimes I would have to comment about it every single time.
Yeah.
He's one of those guys that wins with speed, and that's about it. 4.5 40. I mean, he's got bend, but if you're asking him to over muscle or out muscle a guy at the line of scrimmage, it's not going to happen.
I'm going to wrap this up with a linebacker out of Penn State. Worked pretty well last year. Brandon Smith. Tell me more.
Very volatile, aggressive, athletic, and all of those things kind of combined to put him a little out of control at times on tape. He's in the wrong spot a couple different times, but he's long, he's speedy, he can fit well in a sub package, maybe a nickel roll. I think his best thing is covering, maybe not necessarily running downhill is the best way.
I think there's things where he's there's a couple things with him as a tackler.
Mm-hmm.
He's either going to make the tackle or the ball carrier is just going to bounce off him for extra yards. There's no great finish. And I do respect the way he throws his body around, but he's super reckless the way he plays. And that's a concern. And I wouldn't say his instincts are the absolute best. I kind of feel like there are things that he misses when the ball, when the ball goes a direction, he's still kind of like trying to find it.
Recognition,
I don't think is all that great. I do think his technique could be all over the place, and he always doesn't get off the block. So, but man, he's 6'4", he's 250, and you're gonna have somebody's gonna find a spot for him. But there's a lot of things that you would say, man, I'm not really overly excited about him as a player.
Do you think he shies away from contact too much as a linebacker?
No, like I said, I thought he was reckless. He'll throw his body in there, but I don't know if he's going to make the tackle.
Because he's not foundationally sound.
Yeah, it's like he's not wrapping up. Guys are bouncing off him. He's bouncing off ball carriers. There's things that are going to be like people are going to say they're going to fall in love with the measurables on this kid. But I don't know if they're going to get the best instincts and the best finish out of this kid.
Gotta say, you sold me a lot harder on Demarco Jackson. Like, get him on my team.
Yeah. I have Brandon Smith higher because of the traits and because of some of the speed that he has. However, I would probably be more inclined to take a Demarco Jackson at 88 than I would take like a Brandon Smith at 56.
Fair enough. That'll do it for another edition of Tell Me More. Guys, we're getting there, man. We are creeping toward the NFL draft. It is 3 weeks from today.
It's a dead-on sprint right now.
Yep.
Yeah, well, fair. And it feel like it's
the 40-yard dash.
It all at once feels like it's right around the corner and like it'll never get here.
No, you're going to wake up one day and it's going to be the draft, and you're going to know you're going to have to work 18 straight hours.
We wearing ties?
First day. Well,
Okay.
but I won't be with you.
Oh, that's right. You will be on 105.3.
I'll wear it with you.
All right, I appreciate that.
First day wear your tie, and then wear your draft
show.
Oh, I forgot.
We will get all of our ducks in a row as
Yeah.
we get closer. This has been the Draft Show for Kyle and Brian. I'm Dave. We'll be with y'all next week. Thanks for listening.
This has been a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about this, Cowboys?